Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with that insight, I think it's just important for us to go straight into the conversation. And I'd now like to invite the panelists and the moderator. But first, I must acknowledge the session chair. The session chair is Senator George Akume, Secretary to the Government of the Federation. A round of applause for the session chair, please. All right, so now to the panelists. I said this earlier on yesterday that we should come in generous with our applause as we invite our speakers, and I'm sure that we have a full hall, and we have a full hall of generous people. So please, as I mentioned the name of our panelists and the moderator, let's be generous with inviting them graciously to the stage, starting with His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Edo State, Mr. Godwin Obaseki. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I'd also like to invite the Honorable Minister of Communications, Innovation, and Digital Economy, Mr. Bosun Tijani. Also on this panel, we have the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Mrs. Folasade Yemi-Esan, CFR. You're welcome, ma'am. On this panel, we also have the MD CEO, Africa Operations at Inglax Limited, Mr. Kiari Buka. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And to moderate this session, we have the privilege of having the regional head.
Thank you very much. It's so exciting to be here. I am thrilled to be in the pleasure of this distinguished panel. First of all, we have an unbiased, because I do some work in his state, but we have our digital governor. And then we also have our digital minister as well. It's excellent to be here. Yeah, right, indeed. And then we also have our head of service, Madam Head of Service, who is doing wonderful reform work in digital across the civil service. And finally, a great digital entrepreneur, Kiari, as well, Buka, here. The UK government decided we have to do something different. And they created the Government Digital Service. And I was a part of this movement, which is a significant privilege for me. But we built gov.uk, and we took a completely different approach, completely from the ground up, with building digital services for citizens, because we went with the concept of users first. And that became a model that is now really pushing things forward internationally. But you know, UK is not even #1 anymore. I don't mind, because we have countries like Estonia, Denmark, even India is making massive waves. And I'd like to engage the panel as we discuss this particular theme. Daniel has very kindly opened the stage and given us the context on this. We're basically talking about reinventing government, in particular digitalization of public institutions. And we're going to be looking at it through two broad lenses. First of all, the civil service itself and how we work in a more digital way so that we can be more efficient. But secondly, and in my view even more importantly, is the citizens. How do we give them a great experience of interacting with government? It builds trust. It improves people's experience, and I think there's really an opportunity here to make a better life for so many, many more people. I have Madam Head of Service herself here, and so it will be remiss of me not to throw the gauntlet at her and ask, based on the kinds of challenges you were exploring in what you discussed just now, Madam Head of Service, how are things going at your level? What's happening? How are you going down this paperless journey?
Thank you very much. And I'd like to also acknowledge and thank the organizers of the Nigerian Economic Summit for this invitation. I think this is the second time I've been invited to sit on a panel, and I really appreciate the invitation. Digitalization in the public of civil service is something that the Office of the Head of Service is championing. In 2021, we started with a strategic plan for the Office of the Head of Service. And this strategic plan has 6 pillars, and digitalization of processes has taken a very prominent place in the strategic plan. And in implementing this plan, we started the first phase of piloting this in the Office of the Head of Service itself. Because if we want to drive anything service-wide, it's important for us to use the Office of the Head of Service as a scapegoat, as a process, learning process also, to ensure that when we now go out to the other MDAs, we have a very good plan and we can move much faster. So what the Office of the Head of Service did initially is to ensure that we have processes standardized. And so we developed standard operating procedures in the Office of the Head of Service and now across all MDs. So every ministry of government now has their standard operating procedures, because without that, you cannot build processes just on nothing. So we did the standard operating procedures, and once that was completed, we now, in the Office of the Head of Service, started shopping for a software provider that could accommodate the peculiarities of government in doing its processes. And while we were doing that, we also, just like the governor, His Excellency, said, we also digitized all the records. So currently, all the files in the Office of the Head of Service are now digitized. So we have all the records, so no file can get missing in the Office of the Head of Service anymore. And then we went ahead to get a local service provider who designed a very robust platform for the office to use. We started using it, and just like the governor of Edo State said proudly, I can also confirm proudly that the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation is paperless as at today. We are also encouraged, the state we're in now is actually to enforce that citizens don't bring paper to the office anymore. You know, we have an email address, and we've been publicizing, even at the points in all permanent secretaries' office, in the Office of the Head of Service, we keep telling them, please don't bring paper into this office. Sit in your office and send whatever you need by your email. We give them the email address, but citizens are still yet to comply. So we're saying that we're going to give them a deadline very soon where we will not accept paper in the Office of the Head of Service anymore. And so that is phase 1, which we have been able to conclude successfully. Now going out to the other MDs, we've done series of trainings, series of surveys. We also have been doing a lot of surveys as to the readiness of MDs to go digital completely. And so the last survey we did, we discovered that some MDAs are ahead of other MDAs. So we will not move at the same pace. The MDAs that are ready, like Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Finance, they are ahead of the pack. We will move with them and complete the processes in these ministries, while we encourage the other ministries to play the catch-up game. What we've also done to encourage other MDAs is that we're working with the Ministry of Communications and Galaxy Backbone to provide a one government cloud, which will be the gateway into any government service that you need. That way, you'll just go in there, and whatever ministry you want to deal with, you can go into the ministry's platform and conduct business. And that way also, ministries can also link and talk with each other. We're hoping that the Minister will drive this process with the Office of the Head of Service very fast. We also, we have a stakeholders group where the ministries that are almost there are part of it, and we take bi-weekly records of the progress made. Our private sector partners, the Ike Mokwede Foundation, is also part of that meeting, so that whatever obstacles we come to, you know, in the process, sometimes there's some huge obstacles we can't surmount immediately, and we need help from. So we have some private sector groups that are also working with us and assisting in ensuring that we overcome most of these challenges. So yes, we believe that by 2025 we would have gone a long way. We also have put in digitalization as something every minister will have to report to Mr. President on the progress in their MDA. So if you have done very well, you would report to Mr. President that, and I think that this is quite good, because Mr. President also is keen on ensuring that the whole of government goes paperless, and so we'll also encourage, this will also encourage the ministers not to drop the ball, because they know that they will have to report to Mr. President every quarter on progress made to ensure that their MDAs go paperless.
Thank you, Madam Head of Service. This has been a riveting conversation. We're fast running out of time. I've been getting all the signals now. And so I'm just going to ask for each of you, please, just 1 minute, just to highlight the green shoots that you're seeing that gives you hope in the near future. And starting with you.
Thank you very much. Before I use my 1 minute, I just want to talk about design issues and what it has cost government. Before now, we discovered that some MDAs had procured some software that were not doing what it was meant to do. And so we had to ask them to go back to their contractors, insist on the proper thing being done. And then we can now see, and we also issued guidelines now. The Office of the Head of Service worked with both NIDA and Galaxy Backbone, and we have given them a step-by-step. MDAs now have a step-by-step process to the process of digitalization. And we ensure that you don't skip any of those processes, just to ensure that we don't have these design issues anymore. And that also has brought in a lot of collaboration. The Office of the Head of Service now is like twins with Ministry of Communications, because every step we take, we call in NIDA, we call in Galaxy Backbone, and so we're working, you know, the ministries is really working with the Office of the Head of Service to drive this. And we've come up with a lot of joint policies, you know, before now. The policy on virtual meetings, for example, was jointly done by the ministry and Office of the Head of Service. So we're working together, and the 1 minute thing starts now. I think that Nigeria can actually move as if both the private sector and the public sector work together, and the private sector does not see the public sector as a cash cow, and which you can give anything to, and they will take. I think that it's important for us to be on the same table, that look, this is for Nigeria, and we need to work together to ensure that we get the best done for our country. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency.
Okay. Thank you very much. Since this is the last time I'm going to be on this platform as a governor, I deserve more than 1 minute. Well, I think for me, the last word is, look, guys, the party is over. Like they say, the chickens have come home to roost. We now have to deal with our reality as a country. And it is both economic and social. We cannot, and we all know it, because individually we're all scared, we're all petrified because we don't know what's going to happen next. Except and unless we begin to produce, we're going to be in trouble, or the trouble is going to get deeper. And to produce means we have to reinvent government, like Daniel said in his presentation. And you cannot reinvent government without digitization and a certain level of transparency and efficiency. To continue the way we have gone the last 30 years of this NESG is going to be disaster. So why I decided to come on this platform on this topic is that, look, we have no choice anymore. Governments must become a lot more efficient and support production. There's no more cash, there's no more cow to milk. You've got to be efficient as government, particularly the federal government. The waste is absurd. We cannot sustain it anymore. And also at the state level, we just must now use what we have left to turn this place around, or we will all be in trouble. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
I think just to help to the strong voices, particularly that of the governor. For me, 2 months in, and I don't have any doubt that there's commitment to actually transform government from this administration. I've got absolutely no doubt. But one thing that I'm very clear about is that the transformation that we seek will not be done by government alone. The way forward, if we're going to truly transform public service with technology, is to take a unified approach, centralized approach. We can't have a government that is buying the same software across thousands of agencies and MDAs. And there are global examples for how these things are done. You know, India is a perfect one. The transformation they have today started when they agreed to build the Indian stack, which is not a stack that is owned by any private company but the nation. And it doesn't stop private companies from building on top of it and actually benefiting. When you have a common stack, it provides opportunity for private sector to actually benefit. And the biggest challenge I'm going to have in my job is being able to tell the private sector to not use all their networks and relationships to make it impossible for us to have a unified platform. You know, we can complain about government for as long as we want. Nigerian government is very pro-business historically, and the business people in this country are extremely powerful. If we all don't see the need for a unified Nigerian stack that is truly owned by the government, not just one individual, so that as our innovators can build on top of it, there will not be any transformation. And we're all going to have to pay for it.
Okay. Thank you. In fact, I'm going to change my conclusion just because of what the Honorable Minister had said, and that is the models that we can actually we don't have to reinvent the wheels, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can actually look at a few nations that look and feel like us at certain stages of their evolutionary milestones when it comes to technology. Now, I wear a different hat as chairman of a venture capital fund in the country, local one. We've raised money. Our last deal, we closed at about nearly $50 million last December. But when we started, the first set of money was $250,000, 2016. Now, our concern was that many of the investments in the tech space in Nigeria are coming from outside. And we wanted to challenge that. Essentially, how can we convince local investors to start investing in us and ourselves so that we grow the next set of solutions providers? And of course, the Honorable Minister is not new to those sorts of conversation. Now, the second thing is that when we look at all the successful fundraise that have happened, many out of Africa, number one country by proportion is Nigeria. That's a good thing, isn't it? Now, I find myself scratching my head and saying, why are we not attracting much more than that, one? Why are we not internally creating that capital locally? Three, why are we not attracting digital nomads into the country? Rather, the reverse is the case. Anybody with a half-baked technical skills can actually be hired outside of Nigeria, even though he or she might actually be in Nigeria, working for some outfit elsewhere. All of those conversations or questions need to be answered at the policy-making stage and also the private sector. Because I think if we can address that and make Nigeria the destination, then we will be forced to build both hard and soft infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the panelists. Thank you to the audience as well. Please.
Thank you to the moderator. We'd now like to take quick photographs. Thank you very much. And I'd like to invite the chairperson of the NESG, Mr. Laniyi Yusuf, the vice chairpersons, Ms. Amina Maina, Mr. Boye Olusonya, Mr. Osage Osimbo, to please join. Also, the executive secretary of Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Mr. Simbi Wabote, please join the photograph, as well as Mr. Folusha Phillips, founder and chairman, Phillips Consulting Limited, and Dr. Nana Ude, director NESG. Kindly join the photographs. Thank you. We'd also like to ask our panelists and moderator to kindly wait behind for a quick interview afterwards. Also, Ms. Juliet Eyimwen, please join the photographs. We'd love to have you in the shot as well. And then we'd appreciate if our panelists and the moderator would just wait behind for a quick interview with Mr. Ogunlano, who is standing by and ready to take the interview sessions. Thank you. Bye.